What's up, guys? It's John Reeves, and today we're going to be watching a conversation that I recently had with Roscoe from Big Comfy Couch. I absolutely love this conversation. Roscoe is a very genuine and an honest and open person. It's often said that BTS finds us when we need them most in our lives, and I really wanted to, in this conversation, show you guys exactly how Roscoe found BTS, exactly what they mean to him, and exactly what they mean to his community with a Big Comfy Couch. It was a great conversation. Talked to him numerous times since then. He is a genuinely good person. So please help me and welcome Roscoe from the Big Comfy Couch. Ladies and gentlemen, we have on Roscoe with the Big Comfy Couch. How you doing, dude?
I'm good, man. I appreciate you having me on. This is total new ground for me. So if I get weird, that's why.
Let's just get weird. I'm down, man. I'm down.
Let's get weird. I did see a picture of you with a wig on and lipstick. Like,
yes,
I
dude.
dig, bro. I dig.
It got a little crazy at night. I'm not gonna lie to you. Not gonna lie to you. Those are like we do a Will of Death stream on Twitch a lot, and man, I've actually had a lot of people say, ask him if he will get on a Will of Death with you. So maybe one day we'll see you in a wig. I'm just saying.
It wouldn't be the first time, but okay.
Yes. So, Big Comfy Couch. How did that name come about? Like, I've had a lot of people that are members of the Comfy Couch that have suggested you. And how did this whole thing come about?
Well, the name itself came from when I first started. Like, I first started the channel, and it was just, well, I started the channel years ago because I like to make videos. It's what I do for a living now. Yeah. So I would make videos as a way to kind of process through things that I was either going through or experiencing or things I couldn't understand. So I've had the channel for a long time. But then all of a sudden in December, I started making Beat Saber videos because there was some new software out. I figured I would give it a try. Well, I uploaded a couple videos. It was just fun to do. And then all of a sudden, the influx came because I had uploaded a BTS video and I didn't know what was going on. So like I was just having fun and making some videos, and then people said, can we have some more BTS?
Yeah.
I said, well, sure. And I started doing that. Well, then all of a sudden one day they started saying, you should react to BTS. I didn't even know what that meant, react to. Like I had to Google that, right? So I checked it out, and I put a video. It said like, look, I understand what BTS is now. It's a band. Like, how do I do this? Because this is quite the undertaking, apparently. Yeah. Well, long story short, I get into reactions. And at some point, because I was so new at it, and I make videos for a living. So I didn't want to, like I was already spending about 4 hours a day, every single day, videoing and then editing. It was a lot. So I tried to leave it as clean as possible and keep it as natural and authentic as possible. And one day somebody put in a comment something to the effect of, and I'm completely paraphrasing, your videos feel like I'm sitting on the couch with a buddy on a nice afternoon, drinking some coffee, and we're just hanging out and watching BTS. Yeah. And I was like, yes, that's what I'm talking about. Yes. So like my intro talks about, I kind of envision this whole thing as this big giant couch and all the subscribers are on it and we're just hanging out and watching some BTS. Like that's what I want it to feel like. So if you watch my videos, I call it the Big Comfy Couch for that reason, but I do very, very little editing and cutting. I try to keep it like, I'll sit there and I'll Google stuff for like a minute straight and not say anything because I want it to feel like it's real and we're just sitting here. Yeah. So that's kind of how it came to be.
Dude, I absolutely love that. The thing that I will edit out is me saying like. I just try to edit out that because, dude,
I know.
I sound like a Cali girl, dude. I just will keep saying like throughout, especially if I'm trying to think of something, it just keeps coming out. So like, if you hear me edit in my videos, that's the thing I'm editing out is just me.
Totally get it. Yep.
That is awesome, though. I really like that idea. That's one thing that I really recognized in your videos. I tell people this a lot. You can read through the BS. People can see whenever it's in genuine. People can tell those things. And you are very genuine in your reactions, and I absolutely love that. Like, I'm drawn to that, and I've just now really started looking at your videos. I can only imagine the people that have been with you since the beginning. Like, that's a quality I really like about you in your videos. You're genuine.
I appreciate that. And honestly, especially when it comes to, and this is just stuff I've learned in the last 6 months of doing this, because I'm still really new. I'm still very new at BTS. But if there's one thing that I've learned from, and I don't even like to use the term fandom, but that's what it is. Like ARMY, if you're not sincere, if you're not genuine, they will eat you alive. And rightfully so, because nobody wants to be lied to. Nobody wants to be, have the wool pulled over their faces. Like, they just want a real deal. And if you're going to sit with a friend, which is how I like to see my community, you want that friend to be real. And you probably haven't seen it, but for example, when I watched Spring Day, have you seen Spring Day yet?
Yeah.
Okay. My reaction to Spring Day, and granted, for anybody who hasn't seen my videos, there's a disclaimer that I have to put out there. Because of what I do and because I consider myself a storyteller, I always try to really dissect and disassemble and interpret the symbolism of BTS. So even if I get it wrong, I like to look at it from a whole new lens and say, I wonder what they're trying to say. That's what I like to do.
Yeah.
When Spring Day happened to me, let me tell you, bro, I fell apart.
Yeah.
Like, I'm talking sobbing. I was a mess because I didn't know until the next video what it was about, but I interpreted it as something to do with losing somebody who's taken their own life, essentially.
Oh, man.
And I've had experiences with that, so it hit me hard. And I really struggled with, do I release this out into the world?
Yeah.
One, I don't want anybody to be triggered. I don't want to bring anybody down. But this is like one of those things where if I'm going to do this, I'm going to do it right. And I'm going to be real. And if people don't accept it, they don't accept it. But they will at least accept me for who I am and not who I'm trying to be.
Yes, dude. Yes. That was so well put. I love that. I actually brought my wife up because my one of my mods, that girl Meg, or like literally she deserves all the credit for my channel, but like she was like, I'm gonna break you, you're gonna cry, and I'm
gonna break you,
dude, I'm telling you, oh my god. But she sent me this. She was like, just be ready, it's a really sad song, get some Kleenex ready. Everybody in the previous messages was like, yeah, bring some Kleenex, it's gonna be really sad. So I brought my wife up here. I was like, you're going to have to watch this with me. So Meg set us up. There was a documentary first. So it was like a documentary of what happened. Then the music video, and then a music video explanation. So we watched all those three in the same thing. By the end of it, like, my wife was just, dude, she was
wrecked,
bawling, man. And like, it's weird because like you were saying, you were kind of worried if you should let this out in the world kind of thing, And it's so odd, and I feel like both of us, I think, might be able to say this, but being emotional, especially like on camera, has always been something that, like, I grew up in a really small town. I'm a Southern dude, and I don't know, it's always been something that I've kind of been like, don't you cry, John. You start crying, I'm gonna set you on fire, or something like that. Just like, I don't know.
Set you on fire.
It's like always been one of those things, like, just kind of repress your, like, don't really cry, don't really feel whatever you're feeling. It's different.
I mean, I think that honestly, that's part of the whole like masculinity aspect. Like, I'm a Marine, I'm a gunslinger, like I a beard, tattoos, a sleeve, like the whole 9 yards. But that being said, the stigma that goes along with that type of, like, this is what it looks like to be a man. This is what it means to be tough. Like, at some point, I learned that the most important thing was just to be real. And if this is like the real me, then that is the real me. It is what it is. So like, I struggled with it, but I think that's just part of the stigma of conditioning, being a part of society, and the times are changing. And I think, honestly, one of our most important responsibilities of being on camera, especially being on camera in the way that we are, is like just to exemplify being a real person, being vulnerable, and being honest.
Yeah, I couldn't agree any more with that, man. Just since doing these reactions, like, I think I've been in the BTS I consider myself ARMY now for probably about a month, man.
Nice.
Like,
Nice.
Yeah.
Congrats.
I had like a whole video, like a live announcement. It was awesome, man. I did a live stream last weekend and on stream, tearing up a little bit. Well, like you said, it's being real. And I feel like it's just since really kind of taking this trip into everything that BTS has, and like a lot of the themes that they talk about just really resonated with me. It was something that I needed to hear whenever I heard it, you know? Like, have you heard Epiphany?
I have heard Epiphany.
That one, dude, that one hit me like a brick. But after that one, I was like, man, and that's kind of like the message that I've tried to push out to the world, but it's not something that I've really received myself enough, if that makes sense, you know? Like,
oh, yeah, totally get it.
Yeah, so I don't know. But once I really heard that song, I felt like somebody was telling me that for the first time, and I was like, just, okay. It's cool. You can like not be so hard on yourself. You got to like appreciate the dude that's in here. And so I don't know. That's been my biggest takeaway from BTS, man.
I tell you, what I learned, and if my videos, like I probably go too far. I do like deep dives, but like I get intense with it because like I'm determined to like find the core of the message, but not necessarily like I want to find what BTS or what the artist is trying to say. But there's also this piece that feels like if I dissect this through my aperture, there's a message for me here that I need to get. Yeah. And in every video and every song, even if I'm wrong with the artist's interpretation, there's something for me that I need to learn. I need to pay attention to. So when I really dig in, like I go hard. Like my Black Swan breakdown was like an hour and a half. It was nonsense, but I was determined to find it. And I'll tell you, it's funny because when you mention the message and you talk about what BTS puts out, like, you know, I'm not sure if you've seen like the 2018 UN speech that Junie did. I haven't There's so much yet, good honestly, stuff. Yeah. And it talks about loving yourself. And what's so crazy is my favorite part of all of this, of every step of my journey, has been the community that's been built on the couch, right? So we have the Discord, we have, you know, like everything you see, you probably can't see much of it because it's dark, but everything you see on that wall was a gift from somebody across the world. Dude, every single thing. And the letters, like I've got a binder of every letter I've received, and it's the things that people say and like how grateful they are that they have a place they can go, they feel safe. That means everything to me. Yeah. But my favorite part is the community. And what is so difficult for me is like, I try so hard to get as many people as I can to live that message of like, love yourself, you know, be good to yourself. No one's going to talk to you as often and as direct as you are to yourself. So you got to be good to yourself. But taking that in is a whole different animal. So I totally understand.
Yeah. Being like you just said, man, we're both bearded dudes, tattoos, just have this like different image and almost like what's expected of us in a sense. And it's just cool to be genuine and real. I love that, man. I like that a lot.
Can't beat it.
Heck yeah. What was your first reaction to BTS?
My first reaction, aside from the influx of ARMY that came in, kicking the door down, was the music video for Fire. That was the very first one. And first of all, I'm still traumatized because there's a part in the video where the sound cuts out and I thought my sound had cut out. Yeah. Because I have technical difficulties all the time. Oh, yeah. So, of course, I turn it up and it scares the crap out of me. So I'm still a little traumatized from that one, but that was my very first one. And that was, even though it was the first music video I watched, I picked up Junie in like the first frame of him coming into the shot. I was like, who is this guy? And I've been in love ever since, which is why he's standing right there looking over me. Dude,
look, I was going to save this for later, but I saw it in the background. And now that you say it, I actually we've got fan questions for you. But one of them was, what happened to your cutout? The RM cutout. And
so he gets moved around a lot. Like you see right now, he's a little creepy.
It is. But I like
it's a little weird. But what happens is like there's a doorway you can't see is right over here that goes out into the hallway, and then there's the rest of the house. Well, Junie will be standing here, And because I'm a Marine, I'm a gun guy. I do a lot of training and I do a lot of teaching. I can't tell you how many times I have walked by this door and there's somebody standing next to the window. Oh, and I'm like, yeah, it freaks me out every time. So I got to move him and I make him face the wall like he's in timeout.
Yes, man. Growing up, my mom had one of those big statues, like the big iron armored statues that just stands.
Oh,
like
man.
I still have a scar on my pinky knuckle actually from it. I was walking in one day and it was right by the door, dude, right there. And I was like, oh, boom, a step and punch. I just, cause like, my first reaction is to scream, which I don't know. Like, I know that's not manly, but I'm like, ah! And I think I said hello really loud. And then I just punched. And nope.
You want to welcome the intruder.
Dude, yes. I thought, like, if I scream hello really manly, maybe it will flinch. And when it didn't, I just,
that's too funny.
Left hooked him. It was so funny.
That's
but
awesome.
It was so painful. And my mom was like,
yeah,
what happened to the statue? The head blew off of it. I mean, it flew off.
Nice.
It was amazing.
It's a good hit.
Right. What's the story with the cutout? How did you get this? How did you acquire the cutout? And
it was a gift from one of the couch potatoes.
Yes.
Somebody sent it. They know how much I love Junie, and it has probably caused me more pain than any other gift because first of all, it scares me constantly. But second of all, I can't help when I go live. This is no joke. You know, we've done some live streams. I'm totally addicted to them now, and like one of the last ones was like 5.5 hours. So just listening to some tunes and hanging out. When a good song comes on, not only do I dance in the chair because I just can't sit still. Junie's coming out and I'm body rolling on him. I'm shooting the money gun. It's dude, madness.
Yes. I'm gonna have to go back and watch these, dude. I gotta watch these. It's too good.
Yeah.
Nicely
never
done,
fails.
Sir. Nicely done. Well, it's good to have a built-in dance partner. You know, I mean, like some people will bust out the old school mop or something like that. You don't have to.
Mop.
You've got the full-on cardboard cutout.
But I'm afraid though, because I love Junie so much, and next thing he's gonna be like, his head's gonna be hanging down. Yeah, it's gonna be ugly.
You're just gonna have the popsicle sticks and duct tape in the back. Just make him look pretty from the front. It's good. Going from your first channel reaction to BTS to now, how have you changed personally, and then how has your channel changed?
Wow. Okay, so I can tell you that I have changed. This is gonna sound weird, and it's partly because of being a YouTuber with the community that I have now, but it's also due to finding BTS and really digging into their art. And I will say that since I've started doing this, my life has been considerably better. I have an outlet now for not only my creativity with the videos, but I have an outlet for getting lost in something. You know, I speculate a lot that I have ADHD. And if you watch my early videos, you can see it happening on the camera. But I've never been diagnosed. So full disclosure, there's that. But I have an outlet for getting lost in something which my brain absolutely needs. And BTS is perfect for that because their lyrics are deep. Their videos are incredible. I haven't even touched the BU yet. So there is years and years of content waiting for me, and I couldn't be happier to get lost in it. So in that regard, I have grown because doing what I do and having the community that I have, there is a level of leadership that is required, I think. And I don't mean from like a, you know, I'm leading the charge, but I think there's like an exemplary aspect to that. I have to set the example to be honest, to be real, to be vulnerable. And sometimes saying something that might be difficult, you got to take that step and you got to do it. And I've had people, you know, through direct messages and through comments and emails and stuff, tell me like, hey, what you have done has really helped me, and here's how. And bro, I'm gonna tell you something. Some of the stories that people have told me, it's made me understand that like we're in this all together. Plain and simple. My tagline of every video is look out for each other. And I mean that. And that's why when someone messages me, I feel absolutely obligated to reach back out and try to help them in any way that I can. At my own, like like I'll sacrifice myself a lot of times, and that hurts me, but that's, I can say, how I've grown over the last 6 months.
Yeah.
The channel itself is probably a lot easier to say that, you know, I started with the Beat Saber and I got into the reactions, and I honestly, and I think this is a good thing. Like, the camera has changed, the microphone has changed, and granted, I've got a wall of BTS now, but I think for the most part, I wanted to keep the feel as close to the beginning authenticity as I could. And I even make jokes in the beginning of, I don't want this to turn into like, hey, it's your boy Roscoe, here we go. Blah, blah. I don't want that. I don't want to be that guy. It's just not for me. Some guys can really pull it off. I want to be the dude that comes in with his coffee like a modern day Mr. Rogers, and we just have a discussion. You know what I mean?
Yes. I love that so much, man. Normally, whenever I'll have somebody on, I deep dive stuff, right? So I'll like go back to your very first video, which, by the way, was your first one a Dave Matthews cover? Because
oh man,
I don't know if that was your very first, but dude, I'm a musician as well. I love it, Ben. By the way, congratulations. That was freaking. That was a great cover, and man,
thanks.
Whenever you first started YouTube, is that kind of like what you were envisioning, like just kind of more or less doing a lot of just the music aspect of it?
Yeah, I think so, because, you know, like before I got married, which I literally just celebrated my 20-year anniversary yesterday.
Congrats, man.
Thanks, I appreciate that. When I first got married, I was writing a lot of music, writing a lot of songs. That was my creative outlet. And so when I started with YouTube, which came later, of course, but when I started with YouTube, I really felt like I needed a place for this music to go. It wasn't enough anymore to just write it, because I'm not playing anywhere. I'm not really good enough to sing anywhere, but I wanted to have some kind of outlet. So I started with that. I did a couple jams here and there just to keep it going, but it eventually just kind of fell by the wayside.
Before doing YouTube, and I started doing a podcast alongside with the YouTube channel that I started. But before that, I actually was like a touring musician. I sang and played guitar. And
nice.
Like, when you say you're not good enough to sing, dude, I think sometimes like it just got to a point recently where I've been able to be like, it's my voice, I can appreciate it. But I've always had that same mentality. It just never stopped me from
That's great though.
Dude, yeah. I've always been like, I hate my voice. Gosh. And like recording songs and stuff like that, I'd be like, oh man, I wish I had a different voice. But like, I love the fact that you might have thought that about your voice as well too, but you still put those things out there. It just kind of shows your character and your ability to just be vulnerable and allow things to be out there.
Yeah, I was definitely vulnerable. I mean, singing a Dave Matthews song for one, and singing Halloween.
Yeah,
totally. Yeah, totally.
The falsettos in that song, which by the way, you nailed, my friend. I'm gonna do a reaction to you doing it.
Oh no, my career is ruined.
Yes, we're doing it.
Oh no.
What are some of your biggest musical inspirations?
Hands down, well, musical that have affected my music, or just in general musical influences throughout the years?
That's a good. I probably that have affected your music or just affected you.
Okay. Then I would say, as far as my music goes, it really comes down to, and you wouldn't know this from my YouTube videos, but Nirvana and Dave Matthews, period. When I was in the Marine Corps, when the Dave Matthews and Tim Reynolds album, Luther College, came out, and it was just the two of them. Are you familiar with that album? It's incredible.
My drummer
and Tim
used
Reynolds
to be
is
a massive fan. So,
you can't beat that album. So I completely got hooked on Dave from a young age, and Nirvana. I mean, I literally, Kurt Cobain was like the pinnacle for me. So it was a big deal for me as a teenager growing up. So I'd say those probably affected my lyrical writing and my music tastes. But I would say my whole life, my number one dude was Michael Jackson. Growing up,
dude. Yeah. He's
That's
such
my
a
guy.
songwriter too, man, and a performer. Like you know what though? I ask the same question to almost everybody. I'll ask, like, you know, who's your musical inspiration? And it tells me a lot about, I think, you as a person. But then on top of that, it tells me a lot about how easy it actually is to connect those things and now your BTS journey. Because you being so into lyrics, like, the language barrier really doesn't matter, in the sense that we're looking up the lyrics, deep diving into it. And if you're a lyricist yourself, you can appreciate how intricate BTS's message is, you know?
Big time.
And then too, with Michael Jackson being such a performer and such an inspiration to you, man, there's like no doubt that their performances take some note and inspiration from him.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
hands down. And I'll tell you, one of my favorite things that I think I could say I learned by watching Michael Jackson. And when I say watching, like, I mean, I had tour VHS tapes, right, that I would watch on repeat all the time. Nice. And I learned one day really young that Michael Jackson, like, he would be on stage and he was the king of pop. He was the greatest performer of all time. But when he was in these intimate settings, he was so introverted and quiet and shy. And then that kind of told me, like, so there's kind of two different personas that are happening here. And that, even at a young age, kind of helped me to understand that there's, like, people are multi-layered.
Yes.
And I don't think I really got that until I saw it with Michael.
If you meet me in person, I'm the same exact dude. And in fact, like, this energy that I'm giving off right now, same thing. It doesn't change in the least bit. Whenever I'm streaming on Twitch or something like that, my energy level is just turned up a little bit. It's not that I'm a different person. I'm just like, and like, I'm just having fun and cutting loose, you know? Yeah. But it's like, it's the same guy. And I like that analogy that you said. I mean, it's like, there's sometimes different personas within you, but you're still that core person.
Yeah.
Who do you listen to now that's not just BTS? Like, who's someone else that might be in your rotation?
Well, admittedly, like, I have a little over 2,000 songs on my iPhone that I carry with me. And I would honestly say 90% of those songs are like sentimental, nostalgic songs that I grew up with. Newer music doesn't grab me the way that the nostalgic stuff does from when I grew up. So admittedly, I listen to the album Totally Crossed Out by Criss Cross at least once a week. Okay, I still listen to Vanilla Ice. I have a whole RuPaul CD that I know every last word of. This is totally true. I
love it, dude.
But I think as far as the newer stuff, man, I don't even know if I could name anybody outside of BTS that, like, I like Macklemore. I think his stuff is really incredible, and how vulnerable he is from an addict standpoint. But that's honestly, it's mostly just nostalgic, sentimental music, Guns N' Roses, you know, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I saw on your channel that you're a runner as well, and do you still run? Like, is that
I don't, and that's because I ruined myself. I did 2 ultra marathons. I didn't train properly, and I ruined myself. Yeah. Now, granted, I can say that I think that what I got from those ultra marathons served a greater purpose internally for me than I ever could have asked for from a physical standpoint. So I don't regret it.
There you go. That is awesome to hear that. I've done marathons. I've done it was a 50 something kilometer. It was like a 50 something K that I did, but it was like, dude, that was a horrible, horrible run. It was in the snow. It was in the it was like a trail run. It was a 50K trail run. And that was rough. But I've been thinking about doing an ultra, and I saw that you did some running. And what do you mind telling us? Like, what was it that you learned from that ultra marathon, or what do you feel?
Well, I'll also clarify. So you said you did a 50K, right? So when I say ultra, I'm really referring to longer than a marathon. Okay, so I did 2 50Ks.
Yes,
because some people say if it's 50 or 100, then it's a ultra. But 2 50Ks. The first one was out in California. It was more of a road run, but it was my first one, and I trained for like 3 months, and then I just did it. The second one was the mountain run that was in the Blue Ridge Mountains in Virginia. And it was 34 miles. I trained for 1 month and then just did. It was brutal. But what I learned from it, it was terrible. But what I learned from it was, and the reason I even started them all together, the reason I did the first race, 32-mile Helen Klein Ultra, was because I have 2 speeds, 0 and 100 miles an hour.
Yeah.
So I'm either driving myself into the dirt or I'm doing nothing. And I know that about myself. So I had allowed myself to kind of let my life go to zero. I was gaining weight at mock speed. My marriage was a disaster. I wasn't paying bills. I was a mess. And I needed something to get me out of the rut. And I said, you know what? I'm going to start running. But Roscoe doesn't just start running. A 5K is not enough to like take you out of the shell of yourself and make you a better person. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to register for a 50K ultra marathon 1 year from now. And I'm going to track everything. So I made a blog and I called it Fat Boy to Ultra Runner in 1 year.
Yes.
And I started training. Well, about 6 months in, I was doing really well. I'd lost a bunch of weight. And then one day I was training too hard and I collapsed and I went into seizures. I went to the ER. It was a mess. It scared the crap out of me. And I went months without doing anything. And then the 90-day point came and I said, if I continue this pattern, I'm going to quit. My whole life is just going to be quit after quit after quit, and I'm never going to get out of this rut. So I decided it's now or never. So I trained for 3 months. I finished the race. It took me 8 hours to run 32 miles. It was brutal. But I learned that no matter what, and I proved it later with the 34 miler in the mountains with 1 month of training. I proved to myself that like, I don't care what the odds are. Roscoe, when he puts his name to something, it's going to mean something. And ever since that day of finishing that first race, I've taken that mindset and literally ran with it.
Yes, man. I love that. And look, that 32 mile in the mountains, like I crawled up Mount Elbert pretty much. Dude. Mountain runs are completely different than a regular, like, oh my gosh. So even hearing you say that, I'm like, the 50K that I did was it was a trail run, but it wasn't like mountains or anything like that. There were a couple of hills, but mainly it was just sleeting and snowing and ice. And like I showed up completely unprepared. I was in running shoes, dude. Running shoes in the trails, completely soaked. I think my feet probably had like 1st-degree ice burn. I don't know. It was rough.
Man.
It was rough. But that's awesome though, man. And a lot of people ask me like, what's in my running playlist? So I was going to ask you if you, whenever you ran, did you listen to music? And if so, what would you listen to?
I have to have music. I really admire the people that can go out there and just appreciate the world around them. I can't do that. I got to have I got to have my cadence set. And honestly, I would find these songs that would be perfect for my running cadence and my breathing. And I would keep those kind of sporadically intermixed with even acoustic stuff because I had to kind of come back down and be mellow. So like, for instance, Maroon 5 Unplugged.
Yeah, there you go.
Nirvana Unplugged. That was all through my running mix to kind of keep me mellow and keep me cool. But then every once in a while, like Get Psycho by Disturbed would come up and I would just, and I would regret it every time, but I couldn't help it.
Yeah, man. I've learned that about myself too with running. Like my pacing is very highly dependent on my playlist. And
bingo.
So I'll just end up putting on like some acoustic stuff. And now like it's random, but I've been listening to BTS Lo-Fi while running because it's kind of it's chill enough to keep my heart rate down and like, you know, keep me from really letting my feet loose. So you've done some covers on your YouTube channel. Have you ever had plans of doing possible either BTS covers, or do you have plans on ever bringing back the covers to your YouTube channel?
No, I really don't have any plans to get back into music. As a matter of fact, like those old covers, I have guitars all along the walls. And those are guitars that I collected from around the world. And I used to play that much. I've written like 200 songs.
Oh my gosh.
But the only one I have left is one acoustic electric Gibson that I've had since I was 16. And I just don't play anymore. So I don't have plans to do any covers. Because I really feel like all of my creativity has all the outlets it needs. And I have to be really careful because of my self-diagnosed ADHD. If I see too many directions and I try to go all of them, it's all going to fall apart. So I try to stay as focused as I can.
Man, that is like a lesson that I have to get in my life. I need to learn that. I am like that too much, man. I'm telling you.
It's a hard lesson to learn, but it's important.
Yeah, for real. I don't know. Like I kind of end up doing that a lot. Like I'll take on a lot of different projects, and then like and I think that there's only like it's going to end up suffering if you don't put your full self into something, you know? And so
Bingo.
those other things that you're not really being able to dedicate your time to, eventually you'll see it like starting to slip down a little bit. But
Yep.
I've been asking this question, but we've got a lot of things coming up in the BTS world. We've got a lot of solo projects right now coming out. Do you have one that you're very much so looking forward to?
Well, I will say that I'm looking forward to Junie's stuff. One, because I'm a Junie bias, but
Yeah.
Mono was life-changing for me. I'm not sure if you've heard Mono by RM, the album.
I haven't got to hear it yet.
And I don't know if it's your kind of music, but like you see that purple light back there. If you could sit inside that and meditate, that's what Mono feels like. It feels like being hugged by purple. It's incredible.
Nice.
So like Mono was a big, big deal for me. And so I'm looking forward to Junie's stuff. But I got to say, so far with J-Hope, when he threw out More, dude, mind-blowing. So I can't wait to see what else. And I think tomorrow he's dropping Arson. So I'm pretty stoked. But no matter what they throw out, I'm going to tear that thing apart and see what's at the core of it. I can't wait.
For me, J-Hope's has just been, I've been looking back at their old stuff, and we actually just reacted to Black Swan recently. And before that, we did On. And like those two songs for me are really almost like premonitions of things to come. It seems like they were almost like talking a little bit about this pause that they were going to do in those songs before, especially Black Swan. Like from what I got from it was kind of, you know, that kind of like what happens when you lose your passion in something or you're not able to do something anymore. And I'm excited for these solo projects because I feel like, and especially if J-Hope is anything to go off of, like it's just a great place for them to get those other creative outlets out and then come back stronger, you know?
Yeah, and I think that like in Black Swan, you hit the nail on the head. When it comes to, and you know this as far as being an artist, like if you're just squeezing out the content, it doesn't mean what it should mean as an artist. So the Black Swan concept makes perfect sense. Now, on a side note, have you seen the other version of Black Swan with the dancers?
The film art school or the art
Yes.
film? I haven't got to see that yet, but I have to. Everybody's telling me.
Yes, dude. Like when you're done with this video, like that's what you need to do. It's life changing. But all that to say that the tidbits that you're talking about, this little trail of messages that like from Black Swan or from On, I think you're spot on, and I think that you can look at it as maybe they were kind of leaving hints, they were kind of predicting this, or it really is a constant struggle from the moment that you're like debut time and you're 15 years old, you know, like the youngest were, to now as grown adults, being a celebrity, being an idol, or being on the camera in some way, you can absolutely lose yourself. Like it's such a tricky path to walk. And not that like we understand it like they do. I mean, that's a whole different world. But I can definitely understand the struggle of losing yourself and having to like, hey guys, like I know this is hard to hear, but we're going to have to kind of take a break for a little bit. I got to find myself. And to hear these guys say that was so difficult because you know they've been giving and giving and giving, and then they just finally had to say, I got to find me. And that was hard to hear, but it was harder to know that that's how they felt.
Yeah. And you know what's weird? Like, I honestly have still not watched that video where they announced that. I've heard all the people talking about it and stuff. I just feel like I haven't been in the universe or in the world or in the rabbit hole long enough to really listen to it, and it affects me in the way that it has affected everyone else. So I didn't want to like watch it yet and just be like, you know, it would make me sad now, but I don't feel like I'd have that same reaction that a lot of ARMY has. So I've deprived myself from watching that until I feel like, okay, I'm here now, you know?
And that's the right answer. That's the right attitude, because like, you know where you are in your ARMY journey.
Yeah.
And you know, like for instance, me, and I just said this on a reaction a couple days ago. like the BTS crackhead videos. That's not me. I don't get that one bit. But apparently that's like a down the road level of being ARMY. I'm just not there yet. So you have to be able to say, hey, I'm not ready for this yet. Your decision about the dinner, spot on 100%. That is what it means to be real and be genuine. Because I guarantee there's some reactors out there that watched it when they weren't ready and they had to fake their way through the thing. No go.
Yeah. And man, like we'll do like on our live streams a lot of the time. I try to do stuff. Man, I learned the hard way. We've done some things on our live streams on YouTube, and then it got instantly banned. Like they just took our stream down. I was like, dang it!
Oh no, you got clapped.
Oh yeah, they did it live on the stream. I was like, dang! And it's so funny to see. Like as soon as the stream goes down, the entire chat loses it. It's like no, and it's just like exploding. I'm like, oh okay, we went down. But I've watched some of the try not to laugh stuff, and some of it definitely has gone over my head. And so I completely understand what you're saying. I think we watched House of Army, and that was just funny on the face of it. Like they were, whenever the video that you were saying, you saw me with like a wig and stuff. We were doing we did what's called like a Will of Death stream, which is like, it's been on Twitch. I'm working on setting something up on YouTube to where we can do like BTS related challenges on the Will of Death. But
nice.
It's like for every couple of subs, we'll spin the wheel and then have to do whatever the wheel says. So it gets ridiculous. But towards the end of it, we wore like 3 different dresses. My daughter came up and did all my makeup. I'm wearing a wig, just looking ridiculous.
That's awesome.
And I was like, the chat was like, you should do a reaction video. I was like, what if we just no context posted a reaction video of me wearing this?
That's great. And you didn't say anything about it. You just went in.
Well, so that was the original idea, and then everybody was like, the actual will stuff was ridiculous. Like, I got my nose waxed on stream, like, the whole thing. It was ridiculous. So I like cut that up and edited it into like a small digestible video, and then the reactions at the end. And like, but the House of Army stuff, like, that was funny on its face. I know there was a lot of like inside jokes that I didn't get that went over my head, but man, like J-Hope dressed up like the mom, and dude, just there's so many.
See, now House of Army, I haven't even seen that yet.
Dude, it is even like, I don't know, even if the inside jokes go over your head, there's going to be parts there where it's like, I cannot believe they did this. It's so funny. It's so
love
funny,
it.
Dude.
I love it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, like, man, your thumbnails, I feel like, are at the top of the game. And everybody else needs to take note, dude. Yours are absolutely crushing it. How did you start doing these? Like, what was your inspiration to begin?
I didn't. I can take zero credit because, again, I go back to my community. I have some incredible people. And one of them is this young lady called Chili Puff. And Chili Puff was one of my first subscribers ever. Nice. And she was one of the ones that was like, hey, I think you should check out BTS and see what you think. She was one of the ones. Well, then all of a sudden one day, she just made this picture of me standing with the guys. And I was like, oh, that's so cool. Yeah. She's like, maybe you could do it a thumbnail. And I did that. And then next thing you know, every single video, I got to hit up Chili first and be like, hey, here's what's coming the next couple days. Yeah. And she'll craft thumbnails. It's perfect. I love it. I love it so much. And of course, my default response every single time is like, man, I look good. I look so good.
Yes.
My humility comes out.
Dude, oh yes. No, it's like, those are perfect. And in fact, like, I doing the whole Twitch streaming thing, I've done like a couple of like Q&A type stuff, how to like build your stream, and thumbnails are a huge one. And I've always been like, dude, I'll show people how to do kind of what you're doing, but yours are like God tier, my friend. Like,
she's amazing. I appreciate that. She's gonna love to hear that, and so rightfully so, because I know she puts a lot of work in. Yeah. And I'll also say this: the as far as the channel goes, and you're right. I know the thumbnails, like, they grab attention. I was just putting up pictures of me because that's what that's all I had. You know, I had the title and that was it. But the thumbnails were just so cool that I thought, well, Chili's putting all this work in. Like, people need to see this stuff. Yeah. It made perfect sense. But one of the things that I've been careful with, and not to say that this is right or wrong, but to go with the flavor of like, we're just hanging out as friends. We're hanging out and doing some BTS. I think and somebody will absolutely correct me if I'm wrong, but I think at this point in my 6 months of being a reactor, a BTS explorer, if you will, I don't think one time I've said, like, don't forget to subscribe. Or, don't forget to like the video or what. Like, I don't think I ever did that because I want it to be natural and like, that's just, the thumbnail gets attention and that's great. But like, I want people to see Chili's work. That's how excited I get.
Nice.
So she'll love to hear that.
Dude, that actually, so one of our fan questions, this is actually from Nolo, which is a mutual acquaintance of ours.
Yep.
She asked, what is your favorite meme that Chili has made of you?
Ooh, that's a good one. I think my favorite, it's either one of, well, you know what? Okay, my absolute favorite was just a complete fluke, and it wasn't even BTS related. She took a picture of me in one of my old videos, and she put a man bun on my head, which is why my hair is so long now, because I used that picture to convince my wife that I'm going to grow a man bun, whether she likes it or not. So that's my favorite. But anything other than that, I think maybe Black Swan is probably my favorite because it just looks creepy, and it was one of the first ones. And I was like, yes, this is amazing. So, yeah, that's probably my favorite.
I'm going to have to check this one out for sure, man. And that is like a life-changing meme, by the way. Like, the man bun was so good, you're like, I'm growing my hair out now.
Oh yeah, like a matter of fact, like I even announced the other day on I think it was on a live stream that I'm 1 year I'm going Viking. I'm gonna get completely jacked. I'm growing the hair out, man bun. I'm going BTS Viking. Now, I don't know what a BTS Viking is, but I'm doing it.
Yes, there you go, man. I'm stoked to see this. I gotta see what it is. Have you came out and said like officially, I am an army now? Like I consider myself part of an army.
Yes, and I don't remember when that was. I'm sure somebody could tell you which video it was, but there was a point when I was like, at first I was a little apprehensive because it's almost one of those things, especially initially, you feel like somebody's supposed to tell you, you're army now. But I kind of hit this point where I was really, really getting into the music and the lyrics and the guys themselves, learning their names and learning their personalities. And I'm pretty sure there was a point in the video where I was like, you know what? I'm army. I'm not going to wait for somebody to tell me like I'm army. Maybe I'm like new army, but absolutely hands down. And I went so far as like to get the membership. I've got the card.
Nice.
Yeah. So I'm in there for the long haul now.
I'm like you, and it was recently enough that I can remember kind of like my thought process, but I had a lot of people in the comments that were like, welcome to army and stuff like that before I was really kind of there in my head. And I remember like Epiphany by Jim. Whenever I heard that song, I was like, and it meant a lot to me. I really like to deep dive lyrics as well too. I'm just a really big lyricist. I don't know. I'll like nerd out on it. If I'm on a bike or something like that, and I'm just sitting on a stationary bike, listening to music, reading the lyrics. So after I read that, I was like, man, it's really good. And then I noticed that I was doing exactly what you're saying, just kind of like deep diving their lyrics, really trying to find out more about them. And then it, like whenever that song hit and it actually made an effect in my life, and I was like, but I remember, I think it was on a live stream. I was like, I'm just going to say it. But I felt
just do it.
Yeah. And I didn't want it to be disingenuous. So I didn't like whenever maybe the first month of me doing these reactions, like people were like, oh, welcome to the army. And I was like, I don't want to just be like, yeah, I'm army right now because I don't know, and then I didn't want it to be just like forced or whatever, so
I'll tell you what was funny was like, 'cause I come from the Marine Corps, so I have a military background. Well, when I first started doing reactions, people would post comments and be like, oh, well, I'm army, blah, blah, blah. And they'd start saying stuff. Well, I thought they were talking about they're in the army. So my first few comments were like, thank you for your service. I didn't know that the fandom was called army.
I love that. That's awesome. I was wondering if there was like kind of any correlation that you could put between the two, like the times that you've served and then now being considered BTS Army. Would you say there's like correlations between those two?
Oh man, I don't know if I could make that leap.
Not quite.
Like I do definitely think that there's a and I did talk about the leadership a little bit. I know, like being a Marine, I was a sergeant, so I had a leadership role, and pretty much every Marine, regardless of how new or young they are in a leadership role to somebody. So it starts young. Well, I think honestly, and me being the age that I am, and being from the Marine Corps, that has helped shape kind of who I am on my channel and being the leader that I am within my community, because I do want to lead by example. I want to be a good leader, and I try to take the criticisms and feedback as much as I can. And I'll tell you, I don't know if you've had this experience, but in the 6 months that I've done this, I've had some really difficult conversations with people in the comments, and not just like in the comments, but through direct messages. Like, I've worn shirts on camera that people messaged me and said, "Hey, you need to know this about the company that makes that shirt." And I'm like, what? How is this a thing? But we had some hard conversations and went back and forth. And I was like, you know what? You're right. And I think being able to do that has its own level of, responsibility as a leader. So I think that if I make any correlation, it would be something like that.
I like that a lot. And I mean, yeah, man, honestly, especially on any of the more, the songs that have more to do with mental health, because personally I've struggled with a lot of those as well too. And like you said, we've had lost loved ones to like taking their own lives and stuff. And so just being able to talk about that on some of these videos, and then posting, like, if you need to talk to somebody, you're not alone. You can always reach out to me. Posting those messages, that has led to some of the most in-depth direct messages. People send me something and then I get to talk to them and just kind of like have those hard conversations and work stuff out. I feel like hopefully, if anything, I don't know that I can personally say like I did something to help them, but I just hopefully some of the words that have came from our conversations. And I think that's cool that you're doing the same thing, man. That's awesome.
Yeah. And as I'll say, our Discord, like a lot of the things that I've done, I did because people told me to do them. I didn't know I should get a PO box. I didn't know to start a Discord server. I had no idea, but we did it and it worked out. And for example, the Discord, we have the Big Comfy Couch Discord, but in there we have like a mental health bench where people can go and kind of throw their, just throw something out there and somebody will listen and respond. And there's conversations that happen. And sometimes they're really difficult conversations, but there is an outlet for people to do that. We also have a role within the Discord that a lot of the moderators have, and some non-moderators that we call Care Bears. Now, I know that sounds very full house, but essentially you throw something out to the Discord and the Care Bears get a hold of it. Here they come in mass to help you and listen to you and help you process. Like that right there is the perfect example of what I'm talking about, where it exemplifies BTS's message. It's part of the community. And the reason my videos are so long, aside from me having ADHD and just going through everything like with a fine-tooth comb, is because I realized early on that within the BTS fandom of ARMY, there were a lot of lonely people. So if me making long videos allowed them to feel like there was a friend with them for an hour, I'm going to do that. And no matter how many people said, bro, you got to make 5-minute videos. You need to make 7. I'm not doing it because you might blow through my channel and get a quick, pinch of serotonin or dopamine or whatever, but it's the person that's sitting there by themselves that's bummed about something or lonely. That's the person I'm talking to.
Yeah. When you were saying you've kind of got like the Care Bears and like a lot of the different stuff with inside the Comfy Couch, it's so cool to see how there are groups within ARMY. Like this whole thing might have started from BTS and ARMY and just they kind of like laid out the framework, and then you're taking that message and running with it and making other people's lives better. I love that. Like that's the biggest draw for me in this community and in the BTS world. That's the biggest draw for me. I love that.
Yeah, and I think that I'll be honest. Like ARMY has something like 40 million or 45 million members across the world. Rightfully so. It's a massive, massive community. And sometimes, and I'm sure you've seen this, maybe you haven't, but ARMY can take on a very interesting face sometimes. And I say that from the standpoint of like Twitter. Twitter can be good and it can be terrible, right? And even though like it's easy to say for some people like, well, the person that did this, this, and this, they're not ARMY. Well, we can say that, but they're still ARMY. So I think it's really important to remember that ARMY is just a subset of people, right? And within that subset of people, you're going to have some good, you're going to have some bad, but we can't just throw out all the good because of the bad.
Yeah.
So I think that when it comes to like my community, like, yeah, we've had some hard conversations. We've had some people come in and be really problematic, but the community itself was so positive that they left. And that is exactly what I'm talking about. Like, I want there to be positivity. Your personality, like, you're a really positive guy. You're just like this masculine sunshine in my screen right now. Yeah. You know, you look like a Care Bear. Like, that's a great thing. So like, I want, what I'm most proud of with my community is that is how they are by default. People will step up and take charge, even if you don't tell them to, because that's who they are. And BTS's message allows them to embrace that.
Yeah. And I've talked about this a couple of times before, but like, I've been in a lot of different groups kind of in my life. And I know you as well too, with being in music. I'm sure with running, you probably had some running groups that you were part of, or and then, you know, your time in the Marines, and like, there's been so many different groups that I've been a part of, but these reactions since I started this has been like the most genuine, and I feel like the most positive for me. I think that's the biggest draw. Like, I love the music. I love their message to me is what's really 100% made me like, I would get like an ARMY tattoo or something at this point, just because of like their message is so freaking powerful, and I love that.
That's coming for us too. One of the last live streams, like, we've got, and some people have done it already, but like, I mean, I've got a whole sleeve, but I'm getting the purple heart on my wrist at some point. So we're in the same boat.
Okay. I'm throwing this idea out there. We've talked about it on our channel, and we're doing essentially, I'm going to be doing this type stuff, but in real life, like some IRL meetups soon. I'm not sure.
Oh, nice.
When, but I am definitely getting, that's a goal of ours. Either BTS, just the logo, you know, the doors, or something. I'm not sure what yet. Maybe just a BTS inspired tattoo. So if you ever want to, man, maybe we can go get those bro tats one day, you know?
Bro tats!
Yeah! First meeting, we're already like, bro tats.
We do like a little purple heart right here so we look like tough guys.
Well, man, so now we've got some just straight fan questions. And seriously, I appreciate your time. And thank you so much for coming on here with us, sharing a little bit more about yourself, and just, I don't know, just how cool of a person you are. This has been really neat.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks.
So we asked one from Nolo already, which was, what was your favorite chili made meme of you? And then she actually was also the one asking about the RM cutout that you have in the background. But Lulu, which is another mutual acquaintance of ours, she said, would you rather have a big Namjoon or 3 pocket-sized Jimin's?
Ooh. Well, how big are we talking? Like, is he crushing the city? You know, is it like Godzilla, or, oh man, 3 pocket Jimin's? That's tricky. I think I would have to say I would take the big Junie, because like, I even said the other day that I think my introspective voice is Junie's voice, kind of guiding me through life. So I think I would take the full-size Junie.
Yes. Well, there we go. She's asking a tough question. She's actually got 2 more too. So Lulu said, well, actually, this is just one long question. Here we go. Knowing what you know about BTS, what to you is the message that they brought that resonates the most to you?
There's a level of looking out for each other that they have put out in their message, but I think I'm going to have to agree with you when you mention epiphany, in that, like, you got to love yourself. Like, I'm the one that I should love. I think that is probably the biggest message that on a daily basis I have to really, really work on. And thankfully the music just is all encompassing in that regard. So that's probably the number one for me.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah. I wonder how many people that's the same, like, how many people that's their message from BTS, that they're just like, this is it. And I think it's so cool that they put that on the forefront of them. Like, in a lot of their speeches that I've seen, even just in concerts, that's one of the main topics that they talk about. I think it's so cool.
And it's so relatable. It's like everybody on some level, like, we all have struggles. We all have our flaws that we deal with. And we look at ourselves through a whole different aperture than everybody else. And thankfully, I've gained some really incredible hopefully lifelong friends through doing what I do here. And I'm sure you're the same way, that these people literally, they do their best to try to lift me up when I'm down, and I do the same thing. And I think that that is what community is about. That's how BTS works within the 7 of them. And I think that's how it should be for all of us.
And, I think they've done a lot of, world speeches. They've done with the UN, White House recently. And I think their message of loving yourself, it could fix a lot of those issues that we're facing as a society as well, too. Just how, we've got a lot of left versus right conflict, a lot of those different things, too. If we actually just would embrace, I think a lot of the hate that we're experiencing as a world is coming from self-hate first. And they're just outwardly projecting that.
Absolutely. And having that two-way conversation is so important. And that's why, even though sometimes the comments show up or messages show up and I want to ignore them, I don't want to engage them. But if it's private, a lot of times I'll engage and have that two-way conversation, because it needs to happen. We can't live in the echo chamber of just people that I agree with. You have to at least hear the other side. Now, if you still hear the other side and you don't agree, well, so be it. But at least have the conversation.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with that. I think that's a great way to deal with the way that, like you said, if it's in the comments, maybe just kind of let it just be there in the comments. But if they DM you, then that's the time that you really get to have because too, I think that's it's a little bit more genuine. I think those conversations that you can have behind closed doors, and then too, they don't have their guard up as much, maybe, hopefully,
Yeah, and it's not a show. It's a lot. It's private, so they're just not, and it's also, it keeps things very simple. It's like the playground fight. If it's just you and one other person, it's very simple. It's very direct. It's not you and then 5 of their friends. It just gets ugly.
Whole classroom just screaming fight, and you're just like, oh, chaos. Can we talk? Can we talk about this first?
Right.
If you had a parting message for all of our listeners, what would your parting message be for them today?
My parting message is probably going to be the same as my tagline in every video, and that's look out for each other. And I'll tell you this, because you've seen at least one of my videos. I always say, look out for each other, and we still have a long journey ahead of us. Now, whether that's you as a reactor or a BTS reactor, you're now getting into the rabbit hole. You have a long journey ahead of you, my friend. But no matter what you do, whether it's BTS related or if it's career related, you have a long journey ahead of you. There's good days, there's bad days, but just keep on trucking.
I love that. I love that, man. There you go. That's been a great conversation with you. Seriously, I love your channel. I love what you're doing with the Big Comfy Couch. Actually, I think Lulu recently sent me an invite to join. So I've been there and kind of taking a look at it, but it's just been my personal life's been crazy, and I'm going to try to be more
I
active
totally
in there,
get it.
So. But yeah, man,
it's good, man.
I love the work that you're doing. I can't wait to see what happens for you personally in your long journey, and just see, how you progress, man.
Well, I wish you the same luck. We'll definitely keep in touch. This is really the first time we've talked, but you got a great personality. I love what you're doing. You're doing some great charity stuff. And you're the type of person that I like to surround myself with, because you have drive, you have ambition, you have positivity, and you're making things happen. So I hope we can continue. And I really do. I appreciate you having me on today, and I wish you the best of luck moving forward, brother.
Dude, thank you so much, man. Thank you. And thank you all so much for watching that. Please go find Roscoe on everything. I'm going to link his YouTube in the description as well too, so please make sure that y'all check him out. Army bots, send him over some love. Thank y'all so much for watching this. Spread some positivity, be kind to one another, and if anybody needs anything at all of my socials are at John Reeves Live. Freaking toodles.